All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, we are back again on the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. The Chelsea Newsboys, we are back. It's not a live stream, but it is premiering. You're watching it, so it's premiering right now. As I said, every now and then I do want to mix things up where we're talking about certain points, short and sharp, and get to it, and hope you guys enjoy it, as opposed to hour and a half long discussion, which it won't go away. We will talk, we will do live streams down the track whenever there's something absolutely juicy to talk about, and we'll definitely do a live stream. But hope you all enjoy this premiere right now. Boys, let's get straight into this. Let's talk a little bit about the game, but I do want to focus on a particular matter, which we will talk about down the track. But Ameya, I'll go to you first up. I mean, for me, that was probably the most uncharacteristic sort of display I've seen under Thomas Tuchel from us. I had a lot of swagger going into that match. I thought, I'll be honest, I didn't think we've played well enough this season as yet, but I just thought that we're still winning games. We just got that belief. And we should be able to go toe-to-toe against Man City, who are coming off a draw against Southampton, lost against Spurs, all of that sort of Pep Guardiola not completely feeling good about the fact that he didn't get a striker this summer window. So I just thought that there was a lot of, frustration from the City point of view, and we could capitalize on that. But oh my God, as soon as the game started, from minute one, the way they pressed absolutely boxed us in. And from there, I thought we were rattled. We were scared. We got too worried about the way they were pressing us, not allowing us to build up. And every time we went long, they were winning all the second balls. So it's basically was just getting recycled back, and we're just getting boxed in. And anytime where we sort of had an opportunity to counter, we're just not clinical enough to find those passes. The two up front were just isolated, no support from middle. And that was pretty much the theme of the game all throughout. Even when they scored, I must admit, before they scored, I don't think they had any clear-cut opportunities to open us up. We were defending good, and this is what Thomas Tuchel said as well post-match. In our final, 20 yards, we were good, but the 80 yards in front of us, we just weren't there. Obviously, when they scored the goal, Ameya, things opened up a little bit more, and they probably should have put away another 2 or 3 chances, because if it wasn't for either Mendy or Thiago Silva off the line, I think we were dead. So, I mean, just quickly, from your perspective, summarize the match, how you saw it. And also, I mean, hopefully there's nothing to worry about, because I don't want this to become a trend.
I mean, like you said it earlier, right? We haven't been perfect this season. And you could see that there might have been some blip, because we have been, sort of grinding out results already so early off into the season. The Aston Villa game, we weren't great. The Zenit game, we weren't great. And even the Aston Villa Cup game, we weren't great. I mean, we had to go
first half.
Exactly, the Spurs game first half. So I think you could see that there was that one game which was coming soon where we were going to drop points. And to be fair, I think we needed this. I think we needed to get a reality check. I think the team, Thomas Tuchel, everyone involved, us fans as well, we need to get a reality check that I mean, we have been playing very well, and we are the European champions, but we're still not the best team in the Premier League. I mean, there's a reason we finished 3 spots behind Manchester City last season. And I think, having beaten them thrice, all Chelsea fans basically went into this with an optimistic mind. Me too, in fact. I mean, I'm usually never optimistic ahead of big games. And I always, say either we're going to draw or we might lose, especially the away ones. But yesterday, for the first time in our pre-match stream, I said that we're going to win this game.
And we were all sucked in.
Exactly. I think all of us needed the reality check, and it was poor, I think. But credit to Man City. I think they played really well, and they congested the midfield. And the issue was, I think our fullbacks weren't up for it in this game. And if they were, we could have stretched them wide. But I just think the way the City played, and they tracked back a lot as well. I was actually really surprised, the number of times Gabriel Jesus and Jack Grealish and basically everyone, as soon as the ball crossed them, they were running back and winning it back.
Their counter-pressing was immense, man. As soon as they lost the ball, they won it back.
Exactly. And they won it back, and it was incredible. And initially, the first few minutes, I thought they might not be able to keep this up the entire game, but they did. And once they got the goal, that's when things opened up, like you said. But I think attacking wise, we weren't there. I think N'Golo Kante was sort of poor, and Mateo Kovacic has actually been brilliant this season. Even he couldn't provide the attacking output that was
Yeah.
required. A couple of times he could have played Lukaku or Werner through, but he couldn't.
Mm.
And for some reason, Azpilicueta was shy as well. I think last season we did see him at right wing back, and he was putting in crosses and getting in advanced positions, but he wasn't putting in crosses as well. A couple of occasions I remember Lukaku calling for it in the box, but Azpilicueta turned away and passed it back instead. So I think we missed Reece. I think if Reece was on the pitch, we might have been able to create slightly more problems from out wide, especially after he went out injured. But even before that, we weren't great. So I just think Thomas Tuchel has to take the L for this one. And credit to Pep Guardiola and Man City, they were the better side. They were better drilled. They just wanted this win more, and you could see what it meant to them. I mean, they fell on the floor, and honestly, it's a little bit embarrassing. I mean, you shouldn't be this happy about winning a game, 6 games into
To be
the
honest,
season.
it was just. I know there's been a lot being talked about this, but if you look back at the footage, there was only the one player that fell on the ground and then sort of celebrated. I feel, look, it is what it is. I initially thought, oh my God, they're acting like they just won the Champions League, but I think it meant a lot for them to lose 3 in a row to finally get one back. I think it means a lot to them. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. And we shouldn't be. They can celebrate the way they want to celebrate. We shouldn't be sitting here, guiding them on how to celebrate. I think they know very well what to do. But I understand what you mean, Ameya. I mean, Kishan, before we talk about the main topic that we're going to talk about, which is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to talk about this whole situation about creativity. As Ameya said, Kante and Kovacic, and even our wingbacks, we just didn't provide enough support for the two up front. And whenever the ball fell for Timo Werner, or Lukaku, we know they're not your Sergio Aguero's, they're not your Suarez's, they're not your those classical technical players that can 1v1 weave through players and create craziness. Even when Lukaku was in Inter, he had Lautaro Martinez, who's a lot more technical as a striking partner, whereas Werner, we've always said, he's got pace, he's got movement, but when it comes to technicality, to be able to, seriously dribble past a couple of players and then open an opportunity, that's not his game. That's not what he can do. And more often than not, he goes wide and actually takes the game away. I do want to talk about, there's a serious issue, and I know it's still early days, but at the same time, we're at the end of September. Players like Ziyech, oh my God, frustrating me like so much. I know he didn't feature, but had his performances been better in the last few games, he probably would have started this. Because hasn't been good, he's not there. Callum Hudson-Odoi, don't even know what's going on with him anymore, to be honest. Havertz hasn't really kicked into gears. Pulisic is still injured. Mason Mount is one that I thought probably would have liked this particular game. I think he's pressing up front and the ability to win. And when he presses, he makes everyone press with him as a unit. Maybe that could have been the difference maker. But even Mason Mount this season hasn't really kicked into gears. I'm really worried about, there seems to be no creative player that can really hold the match for us and drive it and really utilize players like Lukaku and Werner. I mean, what do you make of our creativity against Man City?
I think your concerns are like exactly what mine are, and that's what, when we saw that team, it was like everyone's so isolated, and that's not us. We go like together, and that 3-man midfield, you just think who's really gonna like create anything for the two up top, and already sometimes if you have someone else up top with Lukaku, they might be that guy. But Werner kind of does his own thing. Like you have to look for him, and you kind of have to let him be. And then when you play someone else as a supporting cast like Havertz or Mount, then it's a bit different. But to have him on his own with Lukaku, I just don't think it worked. And it's so annoying because I looked at the other game, like Brentford versus Liverpool, and I'm looking at Brentford, and they had the player Waymo, I think that's how you say it. And it's like how creative he was in a game against Liverpool, creating chance after chance, linking up really well with Tony, etc. And we're out here like nearly near the top of the league, and we haven't got anyone who's anywhere near as creative as that. And with someone like Ziyech,
bro, when you talk, honestly, Kishan, you just give a mad slap of reality, bro.
But it is, I do feel like these lower league teams and teams in our league like find it a lot easier. Even like last season when you do watch Aston Villa and you think, wow, you've got like 3 or 4 really, really creative players, and we just don't seem like. I know you said if Ziyech played better, he would have got into this game. But the way that we were playing, I wouldn't have held any hope for him. I don't think he
Right,
probably would have.
he would have got pressed out of the world. He would have
He would
lost.
have got pressed out of the world. He would have cut in and put that ball in right into Edison's arms. So I'm not like it's
Come
one
on,
of
bro,
them.
so harsh.
So yeah, that creativity problem is absolutely huge, and it's getting to the point where I feel like we might need like the transfer market to address it now, because everyone has had more than enough chances now. And
let's be honest, Kishan. When Havertz came on, I don't think it really changed much. And as I said, we're going to talk about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Let's get into the Ruben Loftus-Cheek conversation. I'll go to you, Ameya, first up, and then we'll circle back to Kishan. That whole creativity issue that we had, and it's not just the creativity, just having that intense, that desire to press back when the opposition is pressing you and, boxing you in a particular zone. You need to push back and get some ground. It's like a war field, right? You can't let your opposition just take over, eat all your ground off advantage. You do need to push back and gain advantage as well. I felt like when Ruben Loftus-Cheek came on, he wanted to do that. He was showing the determination to take the ball, be sort of one of the target men, get the ball, have the ability to not get dispossessed, turn players inside out, and then drive directly at them to then sort of rattle them a little bit. I feel like when Havertz came on, and I'm not having a big go at Havertz. I know the fan base likes Havertz. I like Havertz, but I didn't see that impact from him when he came on, that the desire to find the key passes, take a few players on. Maybe that's not his game. I don't know. Maybe it's just not his game. But at this moment, I feel like we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that Thomas Hook came post-match, said that Kante and Jorginho weren't fit enough. And perhaps he was a bit not so comfortable with the decisions he made in terms of selections. I feel like, why not give Ruben Loftus-Cheek a chance? He's played really well against Aston Villa in the Carabao Cup, had a very nice showing cameo against Man City as well. I mean, do you feel he can give that spark, that extra added sort of creativity at times in midfield?
I think he can, but at the same time, I think he might lack a little bit defensively. Now, I know that this might not be a popular opinion, but then even against Aston Villa a couple of times, you could see that he was caught out of position. I mean, there should have been spaces which should have been marked by our midfielders, by usually, either Jorginho or Kante, whoever's on the pitch, but he wasn't there at times, which gave Aston Villa so many spaces, and which is why we conceded so many, chances from open play. And I know, like, Malang Sarr was there, and there was no experience in the back line and all of that stuff, but there were certain opportunities which were presented to Aston Villa, mainly because the holding sort of midfielder wasn't there to hold fort. So I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek, his best position is still as one of the eights in a 4-3-3. I think that's where he excels. That's where he had his best ever season under Sarri. So I think, that's his ideal position. And which is why I think, if we do play 5-3-2 ever again, if we do decide to do that, then Loftus-Cheek would be a brilliant option.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think if we do play the 5-3-2, then Loftus-Cheek would be a brilliant option to have there, because he has the dribbling, he has the technical ability, he has he can run with the ball and progress it really well, and he can also chip in with the occasional goal as and when required, which none of our other three midfielders can. So I think that's what Loftus-Cheek holds. So I think in a 5-3-2, yes, but if we do play with the 3-4-3 system, where usually you do have Lukaku up front and one of Mount, Havertz, or the list of players that you mentioned earlier, either one of them playing alongside, then it could be difficult for Loftus-Cheek, because I think the opposition will look to get into those spaces which Loftus-Cheek leaves in behind. Now, I'm not saying that he can't learn it, but at the same time, when the same thing's been drilled into you about your attacking positions and your attacking sense, you sort of sometimes leave your defensive positioning out the window. So I think even against Man City, you could see, right, he was really good off the bench and he was attacking and pressing a lot, but a lot of times you had to see a lot of our players tracking back, and I know we gave it a go, but at the same time you can't play like that when it's 0-0. So I just think in that sense, Loftus-Cheek in a pivot, I would be slightly skeptical. But the 3-5-2, then as one of the eights, I can definitely see Loftus-Cheek having a game there and excelling.
Kishan, the whole 3-5-2, it could easily be again 3-4-3 with the two inside forwards.
Yeah.
Generally, it's Lukaku, Havertz, or Mount. Let's say Mount does come into the midfield, creating a Lukaku Havertz sort of up front. So it ends up being a 3-5-2 anyway at times. However, Mount has that sort of know-how or that desire or that industry to be box to box. If he needs to go up, support, and create a 3 up top, he does that. And then at the same time, he'll drop deep. My whole reason about Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and I want to hear what you have to say, Kishan, is that all the other players have not been on form. That's the thing. And I'm not advocating for Ruben Loftus-Cheek to start ahead of Mount. I think Mount still deserves to come straight back into the team because of the credit that he's basically collected over the last couple of seasons, especially last season. But I feel if Mount, obviously he was injured, that's why he didn't play against City. But let's say he's not ready against, Juve, or let's say even if he is, and we don't want to say play someone like Werner again, or probably don't feel comfortable with Havertz as well, let's just say for argument's sake. I feel like if we are going to overload the midfield, why not give Ruben Loftus-Cheek a chance? He is looking like someone who seems to care a lot more than most of the other players at the moment. I'm not saying those players don't care. I'm just saying that this guy just cares a lot more because it seems like his life depends on coming back into the Chelsea team. He just wants to so back. I mean, do you want to see him get a bit more time, or you're someone that off the bench is okay for you for the time being?
I'd happily let him get some more time because similar to you, when I've watched him for the last 2 games, I've been really impressed. And we had this talk even before the season started, and you asked me what I thought about him, and I thought, yeah, he's done. Really, I thought Tuchel was speaking well on the guy because he had to. And to be fair, I think he did have some offers in terms of loan deals that he could have gone for, and he wanted to stay on and prove himself. So fair play there. It's just like you say with the 3-5-3. I mean 3-5-2. I still 3-5-3. If you put Ruben in
we
there,
needed a 3-5-3 against.
He's gonna. We did. It's probably going to be more creative, but I still don't think he's that creator. So if you're playing Werner and Lukaku up top, I still don't think that's gonna solve that issue when you put Ruben Loftus-Cheek in over one of those players. I think we really need to revert back to that 3-4-3 that we were doing and just go for those 3 attacking players up top. So as of now, the 3 fit ones would be Werner, Havertz, and Lukaku. So I'd stick those 3 in. And maybe Hudson-Odoi, but let's be real, that guy don't get any minutes. And if he does, they're going to be our wing back. So yeah, it's going to be tough for him. But the bit I'd say about Ruben Loftus-Cheek is he is not any worse than Saul Niguez is right now. So in that pecking order, when we talk about that 4th guy, Saul being Saul, he does not fill me with any confidence whatsoever now. And at this point, you look at it and you think that he'll have to work really, really hard to try and get that loan extended.
Oh man,
Ruben Loftus-Cheek, you can say what you want about him, but at least he's Premier League ready. His body is ready.
Yeah.
And this is, even at Fulham, I didn't necessarily see the guy get on the ball and drive as much as I have now. He gets the ball and it's like he's protecting. He knows how to stick his body out in the right place. And he can weave past a few players as well.
But he doesn't get dispossessed. I've not seen him get dispossessed.
I saw it yesterday as well. And he just weaved through a few players. And I think we could definitely do that because apart from that, Kovacic is the only other midfielder that really, really weaves. I know Kante can run with it quite well, but in terms of going past players in midfield, I think Kova out of all of our midfielders yesterday was by miles the best one because even though he got pressed, there was some times where he could dribble out of it, etc., and move the ball on. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is like the more powerful version of that. Maybe not as technical in terms of the intricacies of dribbling, but he can burst past someone.
Yeah.
And I think we need that kind of progression up the pitch, and we've got nothing to lose by bringing him in. Our next few Premier League fixtures, the next 4 or 5, look quite favourable as well. So if he can get a run going, then that's good. And I think it kind of speaks volume that Tuchel actually brought him on against Man City yesterday. Not pity minutes for 5 minutes at the end. It was I think it was around 15 to 20 minutes.
He got about 15 to 20 minutes,
yeah.
Like proper. So he was willing to change the game.
Yeah, and I think so. He would have looked at the game against Aston Villa and thought, yeah, I fancy that. There was no quotes that came out about it or anyone asking him about Ruben, but I think he was really impressed to bring him on.
No, absolutely. And this is what I want to talk about next up. Ameya, our run of fixtures in the Premier League, not just that, obviously we've got Juventus next up. I mean, how are you setting up here? I personally feel when you've got someone, an individual who's showing you, and I completely understand what you're saying, Ameya, defensively, he does leave holes, and 100% as that lone DM, he didn't completely grasp it. And this is why I say I don't think he's a lone DM player. I know Thomas Tuchel was saying that he can play as a lone, as a single 6, as a double 6. He sees him as a more of a sort of 6, and then obviously he can definitely do it as an 8 as well. But I think Thomas Tuchel's trying to sell that whole thing about he can do a single 6. I don't think completely he can do a single 6. There are parts of the single 6 game that he can do, but not everything when it comes to off the ball and whatnot. I want to ask you, Ameya, Juventus and the sort of Southampton, I think, after that, and then obviously, God damn it, international break again. I have to ask you, I feel like he's one player that has shown a lot more form than some of the other guys around him. I feel like you do need to take advantage of a player that is showing form to somehow find a way. If we are going with the 2 up front, and now that could be a bit of an issue, I personally thought it's not the 2 up front is not the issue. I think it's the issue behind it, not supporting the play of the 2 up front and the wing backs not doing that. Because the 2 up front with Lukaku and Werner, theoretically, when you close your eyes, you go, that could work. But you need all the supporting cast to then, help them out as well. When you leave them just by themselves, it's not going to work. So I want to ask you now, Ameya, I mean, do you continue with the 2 and somehow find a way to maybe give Ruben a bit more minutes to get the best out of him because he is in a better form than some of the other guys? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, because like literally none of the supporting players for Lukaku are playing well. Like you mentioned earlier, Ziyech, horrible run of form those 3 games. Pulisic, he just always seems to be injured. Mount needs to sort himself out, and then Havertz. All of us actually thought this was going to be the season where he blossoms, and I know there's still a lot of time, but it doesn't look like it. And if anything, he looks worse than what he did towards the latter end of last season.
Yeah. I think so. With Havertz, I feel like some of Chelsea fans have talked him up to be a lot better than he's actually shown. And I think that highly comes from that Champions League moment. Now, obviously for us, that's a massive.
Bro, honestly speaking, I think he's more of a
shadow striker.
Yeah, he's more of a shadow striker as opposed to a creator. I know he has the ability to assist as well. People will say, what about that Villarreal assist for Ziyech, how he crossed it in the Super Cup? I get that, but he's not a natural creator.
Yeah, he's not.
Natural.
He's really not.
I think he's more of a natural striker, a shadow striker. Do you know what I mean? A secondary striker. He's got that physique to be as well, like tall, aerially, he can do that. So, yeah, I mean, continue, man. Bang on, man. Like, just the supporting cast has just not been there.
Exactly. And with that being said, Werner's actually, he scored against Villa and he created a lot of chances against, Spurs when he came off the bench. So fair play to him. I mean, and they both have experience playing off of such strikers, right? Like you said earlier, Lukaku has experience playing off Lautaro, and Werner had experience at Leipzig playing alongside Poulsen. So they both know what to do, but it's just that it's not clicking, or the opposition aren't allowing them to click more, like, because I mean City was the first time they started together really, and I mean you can't really judge one game off the best team in the league. So I would give them a few more minutes, but I genuinely do want to see, if we do carry on with the 3-5-2, then I want to see a midfield of, especially against Southampton, probably I would want to see Jorginho, Kovacic, and Loftus-Cheek. I mean, that could genuinely, provide enough support
What's
along
the
with
hate you
the
get
wing
now
back.
for not playing Kante?
I mean, he does have his injury issues and whatnot, of course. So that's just something that I would like to try, because you replace either of Kovacic or Loftus-Cheek with N'Golo Kante, and you're not going to have the same amount of attacking threat or the support, right? So I mean, I'm not advocating for Kante to be left out, but I'm just saying if we do pursue with this 3-5-2, then that would be a sensible midfield trio alongside very capable wing backs. So I think that being said, if we do revert back to 3-4-3, then obviously the first choice is Jorginho and Kante, right? So I'm just saying, more basing it more on the system. That's what I would like to see if we do play 3-5-2. But as things stand, I don't know, man. I genuinely hope at least one of the supporting players fix up, because even if one of them fixes up and starts playing well, then we can revert back to the old system, and then we can play really well. But until that happens, we really need to we really need to find the right balance, because you can't have everyone out of form at once. That's just I don't know how that's happened really. But also this really makes me feel bad about Hakimi, missing out on Hakimi, because this would have been the perfect game for him. Like literally the perfect game for Hakimi to come in and shine.
Bro, you've opened up some wounds, bro. Both Kishan and I, we were celebrating that Hakimi was signed. We were going to get his jersey. I even promised Kishan I'm getting his Hakimi jersey for him. I can't. Oh man! And now this guy comes out in recent times saying that he was always going to choose PSG. F you, Hakimi. F you. Kishan, I mean, Juventus. Let's talk a little bit about that. You reverting back to the inside forwards. I mean, I'm not confident with any of our inside forwards. I mean, you look at the goals that Lukaku scored. They're not really provided by the inside forwards. It was a deep pass from Kovacic. It was a pass from Azpilicueta against Aston Villa. It was another cross from Azpilicueta against Zenit. Arsenal, it was another pass from Reece James. It's not really the inside forwards that are banging it with him. I mean, what's your thoughts?
I still think there's nuisance factor in there, though. Like, the more players you have running around there, the better. But I thought Mount and Havertz did really well against Arsenal, and that was in their individual zones. Like, Mount did really create the goal for Reece, and he put that one in. I know Lukaku's directly might have not been influenced by it, but I would revert to that, because I think you were speaking about Werner and Lukaku working together. I think that could still work, but I think it has to be Werner from that left side, like predominantly there's that left forward, and we need a supporting cast guy. And I'd just try and play one of them into form now. And I think right now it's only really Havertz who you can go for, because I think Mount's injury is not a serious one. It was a really minor one. So he might actually be back in for a game like Southampton. So if he is back, I think he's the one that you have to try and play back into form. But for now, against Juve, if that comes a bit too... that was...
There you go. You're back, bro.
It was swapped over. So yeah, just speaking about Havertz, it with him, I don't know, even the demeanor for me, like in some games where he's playing and things aren't going well, I just like to see a bit more getting stuck in, and that's what I really like.
You're not going to get that.
You're never going to get that, which is
I know you hate that. I know, because I know in the private chats you always say, "Oh, Havertz, just that demeanor, that attitude." You're just not going to get that.
It annoys me so much.
Nonchalant sort of feel. Do you know what I mean?
But Miz, I get that, like, nonchalant feel and stuff. But if you're like losing a game and a player tries to look nonchalant, you're like, shut up and get and 2-foot someone. It's just it's just like that's why I like stick up for Mount a lot more, because you're always going to get that
he
side to it.
gets
So
stuck in.
for
He
sure,
gets
yeah,
stuck in.
get these players that are going to get stuck in. But at the same time, I think with Mount, you've seen his form's not been great, but he'll still get into those scenarios where sometimes the final ball hasn't been there. But you've got to keep repeating those scenarios and hoping that he'll get
you know what
better
my
into
issue
those.
with Mason is? It's not off the ball. Off the ball, I want him. The team needs him off the ball with the work rate. It's on the ball where I feel like, I know a lot of people will throw the stats, but Miz, he's the most highest creator for us, and this, I get that, but I need, team like Chelsea needs a creator that's gonna be that Cess kind of type, clutch. Do you know what I mean? Looks up, boom, pass, and it's 1v1. We need that against a game like City. You just needed that moment of magic where a pass was going to split open Diaz and Laporte and Lukaku 1v1 with Edison. We just didn't have that, man. And that's what frustrates me.
This is the thing with Mason Mount. Like, he's brilliant. And some of the games at the end of last season, Miz, like, he really steps up energy. And then even when he gets the ball, some of what he does, these half turns, etc., they're brilliant. It's just that, that final bit of putting the ball in the net or that final pass, it just don't seem to be there currently, and that's the part where it gets quite hard, because if you're playing in that position, you need a lot more output. And I saw some stat that said he's not scored for England or Chelsea in the last 20, or I think it was about 20 odd games, which
for Chelsea
is Chelsea and England.
You mean like for England and Chelsea combined?
And Chelsea combined,
yeah, okay.
So that's a lot of games to not score in.
His last goal against Porto.
Oh, unless
but that was he got one against Real Madrid in the semi-final too, right?
Real
the second leg.
Yeah. He got against Real Madrid. Yeah. Wow, has it been 20 games since then?
Yeah,
probably
around.
Yeah, probably.
England was probably about 7, 8.
Yeah.
So that says quite a lot. He needs to really step up those numbers, but just creating those numbers, like, there's so many, like we talk about with Lukaku, there's so many methods in which Lukaku can score goals. Just cater towards them. But sometimes, Miz, you look at someone like Mason and like, he put in that ball against Arsenal, Lukaku nods it, comes out with a world-class save. So he's got it in him as well. It's the more you do some of these things, it'll come out. But we don't have that intricate Fabregas guy. And this is why, like, when you have here shouts of Jorginho for Ballon d'Or, and I just think, like, I just look back to some of what we've had previously with, like, with Fabregas,
Frank
and stuff. And I'm just like, if this guy was supposedly Ballon d'Or, and I know that you'll have people that say that he's really good at his job and he does that well, but I think that other side, like the harder part of the game, the more intricate side where you're looking up and you get your head up. If we had someone like Cess there yesterday against that high line of Man City, I think he could just create balls from, like you said, just standing there, and he loops one over the top perfectly for our players, but just doesn't seem to work right now. And Ziyech seems to be that guy who has that in his locker, but you know how he's been since being at Chelsea as well.
Don't even get me started with Ziyech, man. The whole Ballon d'Or, we'll keep that for another discussion. I do have some interesting comments about that. I know a lot of people say, I've seen in social media people trying to compare Jorginho with like Frank and Ballack and all that. And I'm like, it's not the same. They're not same players and they don't do the same thing. It's different. Jorginho, under the style that we play, is too important. There is no replacement for. Yeah, there's no replacement for Jorginho.
The only thing for me, Miz, is like, with that profile of player, why can't you pass? Why can't you have, like, look forward and add that to your locker?
You can.
I don't think he's a bad passer of the ball at all. He's actually a brilliant passer of the ball. It's just do it a bit more.
No, you're right. As I said, as for another discussion, we will definitely keep that. Let's wrap things up. Ameya, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, before we do that, please smash the like button. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe and check out the boys and their socials, especially Ameya's YouTube channel. You guys are doing really well. You guys started doing that reaction sort of videos, which is really interesting. I saw the mods one the other day, which was quite interesting. I mean, Ameya, do you think one-off, this situation, and hopefully we just get over it. And because I can't wait for the Juve game, I really want to see how we bounce off this, because I've said it all along. I don't think we've played a perfect game as yet. I know it's early in the season, but then again, we're end of September. We need to start picking things up. I just have this bad feeling from previous seasons that a loss like this then snowballs, and before you know it, December, Thomas Tuchel is about to get sacked. Like I get nightmares when I think about these sort of things, right? I just hope that this was a one-off and we can just pick things up properly now. How you feeling, man?
I mean, it does seem like a one-off, to be honest. I mean, I know that we haven't played excellently, but we have so much quality in that attack. And although as the system right now, we're probably not, linking up as we would like to, we still have so much quality in our ranks that we will be able to grind out wins, hopefully, especially looking at our run of form in the Premier League. I'm hoping that we are able to grind out some results. Sort of like the Aston Villa game in the Premier League, right? We clearly did not play well in that game, but we still somehow came out with a 3-0 win. So I think that could be the case until Thomas Tuchel, sort of tweaks and perfects the system. But he sort of has to, because I think he will be the first person to point out the weaknesses in the squad. And I think hopefully we can work on it, especially over the international break. I know most of the players won't be around, but hopefully Thomas Tuchel can, try some stuff in training maybe, and hopefully perfect the system, because it's not bad, but it's not flawless, and it's not down to the players or anything. It's just the way that they're instructed to play, and it's the way that the opposition sets up as well. So now we've had an experience about the different ways the opposition can set up against us, and now hopefully Thomas Tuchel does sort it out. And about the Juventus game, I mean, hopefully we do win it. That's probably our toughest game of the Champions League group stage, right? Juventus away. So hopefully we get that out of the way with a win, because Juventus have had a terrible start to the season. So I'm hoping we can, get a win there, and that sort of puts us in the pole position for the top spot in the group already. And after that we can start rotating and stuff. But yeah, hopefully we bounce back, because we need a strong performance against Juventus, and hopefully we can build on that, because there's still a couple of games before the international break. So we've got to beat Southampton as well. And Southampton, in fact, they kept Man City at bay while we couldn't. So we shouldn't be underestimating them.
I'm not confident. And
Livramento, he's going to score a winner.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm a bit cautious with them, because they play good against us. When was the last time we beaten them? Do you know what I mean? Like that 3-3 draw. Then we had.
I think we beat them on. Oh yeah, yep.
It was 1-1. Then before that, under Frank Lampard's first season, they pattered us one of the games where they beat us.
But I think we beat them. We beat them 4-1.
Yeah,
we beat them 4-1 in the earlier parts. Then they smashed us 2-0 later on when it wasn't going good. I mean, Kishan, thoughts on Juve, man? How you feeling?
I'm not actually feeling that that's good for Juve now. And I know, like, we're talking about blips, etc. I think it might be like the damage from this. It starts to creep in, and I think, but I don't really see us losing the game. But I can't see us winning. I see it as a draw. And to be fair, it is the hardest game, like, in the group stage that we have. So if we come out with a draw, it wouldn't be the worst case scenario. But the whole point is Juve have been doing badly. And it's just with these teams, though, Miz, we don't want to go in thinking like this, but all these big teams, we've assembled a team that can hang with them. Like, we've spent 70 odd million on Havertz, this much on Werner, 100 odd million on Lukaku. So you can't really like turn around and go into these games without being that confident, because if you aren't, then what is the point in assembling such a
all that money?
and it's like, what's the point of spending that much money on all these attackers and playing football like that? That's what my whole point was from yesterday. But hopefully that changes with some of these sort of creators coming back into form. They've got Reese out for a few weeks, so that's one of our right-sided creators gone for a bit as well. So
oh man, Hakimi. It is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Smash the like button, as I said, if you've enjoyed it. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe. We're only about 200 odd away from 8,000 subscribers, so let's get there as soon as possible. Check out the boys and their socials in the description. Go, please subscribe to Ameya. However many we've got, please go and subscribe. Get the boys up. You guys are very close to, I think, 2,000 subscribers. So let's get
Yep.
that done ASAP. We'll see you guys sometime tomorrow with Down Under Football Crew with the Aussie boys, and we'll probably recap the weekend, Premier League matches and see what's going on. Until next time, everyone, take care and see you.